know that the very thing you might be doing to get inspiration for your goals might be the very thing that keeps you from achieving your goals? Welcome to the Optimization Edge, the podcast where hard science meets practical strategy to help you sharpen your thinking, improve your systems, and live life with greater clarity. We mean to optimize your work, your academics, your organization, and to optimize your life. I'm your host, Dr. Derik Perry, and I have over 30 years of experience in strategic planning, digital transformation, enterprise architecture, with extensive academic research and experience in technology adoption and AI governance. I've spent decades leading and advising corporations, governments, and the military, as well as people, get better at decision making, formulating plans, and executing those plans in complex, high-stakes environments. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Optimization is not just about doing more and doing things faster. It's about doing what matters in a way that's sustainable and smart. And today, we're asking a deceptively simple question. What does it actually mean to optimize? We'll explore how different fields define optimization, from economics to engineering, political science, and military, and then what that diversity teaches us about decisions in our own lives, whether it's leading a team, redesigning a system, or trying to reclaim your time. This episode is designed to help you pause, zoom out, and ask, am I optimizing the right way? Now let's talk about how optimization shows up across many domains, because it's not just one size fits all. In economics, optimization is about the allocation of scarce resources. What mix of labor, capital, and time produces the highest return? Concepts like economies of scale or the laws of diminishing returns all factor in. You may remember that kind of stuff from early college days. In finance, optimized portfolio planning is about determining the level of risk that you want to take with your investments and the levels of fees, costs, and returns that you're expecting over some horizon of time. So when do I need to access these funds? Are these retirement funds? Do I need this to buy a home? Those things factor into the consideration. And in engineering, it's about constraints of design. And given these limits of weight that you can handle, or the cost that you can handle, or the space that you have available to you, what's the most effective way to achieve some performance goal? And in the military, in military strategy, let's say, optimization takes a very different flavor. It's about speed, agility, minimization of risks while maintaining tactical impact. And every decision that the military makes is generally under pressure and requires lots of trade-offs, as do all these decisions. So when I have advised the Army on capability development, they were most concerned with the speed and the capability being developed. How fast can I get this thing up and running? And they also wanted to make sure that all this whiz-bang stuff was real, because if they can't sustain it in theater, it's not real. So those are the constraints that kind of come up there. In political science, optimization often shows up in forms of policy efficiency or balancing competing priorities of stakeholders for limited resources, because there's only so much resources to go around. So obviously those in power or in democratic states have much more to say about the allocation of resources than those out of power. And despite my proximity to Washington, D.C., this podcast is not a political podcast, and I will not be opining on this administration did the right thing or this administration didn't. We'll be talking about optimization and how it affects execution and how it affects planning and how it affects outcomes. Optimization becomes much less about efficiency in the political realm as it is about navigating competing definitions of public good. And so we're going to stay away from the politics of that. In the enterprise architecture realm, where I'm also very familiar, performance optimization involves aligning the digital and organizational infrastructures, i.e., the people, the technology, and the processes, to achieve business or strategic objectives. And so optimization can occur in the technology stack alone, it can occur in the people stack alone or lens, or it can also occur over processes with respect to, am I getting this done most effectively and efficiently? But my case studies, or the studies that I've worked on, really say that all three of those areas have to be involved in some transformation. So you have to optimize all of them simultaneously, but you sometimes have to focus in one of those three silos. But in performance engineering, integrating people, process, and technology leads to greater success. Research has definitely shown that. So what do all these fields teach us about optimization? They teach us that it's never about perfection. It's about performance within constraints. So before we get tactical and into the details, we have to get conceptual or contextual. So what does it mean to be contextual here? Well, it means let's put it into context of what matters to us. So when you think about goal setting, it's what matters to you, because the best systems, the best optimization that you can do, if it's aimed at the wrong goal, will produce the wrong result. It just might produce it more efficiently and effectively. So let's be focused on what we want to be focused on, and that's context. I'm a firm believer that systems are meant to be optimized, people are not. People are much more complex. Optimization at a personal level is deeply contextual and deeply subjective. What looks optimal to one person may feel completely wrong to another. For example, one person might optimize for speed, clear my inbox, 5 a.m. workouts, get back-to-back meetings done early in the morning so that I could have my afternoons free. Another person might optimize for stability, for deep work opportunities, for long-term projects, and for fewer commitments. So each person is different. If you copied one person's model and dropped it into another person's world, it would likely collapse. That's why when I work with teams on digital transformation or long-term planning, I always ask, what are you optimizing for? Is it getting things done? Is it making more money? Is it reducing risk to the enterprise? Advancing, on a personal level? Is it advancing your career? Is it advancing the investments in your portfolio, in your investment portfolio? Is it better communications with your spouse or your coworkers or your friends? Is it psychological safety, or is it trying to be more creative and having better ideas? Because if you don't define up front, clearly and honestly, you risk building the perfect solution for the wrong problem. The same is true for your life. There's no universal formula. What matters is whether your decisions match your values, your constraints, and your vision of success. So before we dive into the decision science, I want to plant the seed. Optimization isn't a competition. It's a collaboration. And it's a collaboration that starts with clarity of your goals, your energy, and the systems you're building. Now let's talk about what the science tells us, especially when it comes to decision making, about how our style affects our satisfaction. And by style, I mean our operating style. You might think that people spend a lot more time on weighing every option in decision making, reading reviews, reviewing options, comparing specs, analyzing risks, make better decisions. Well, in many ways they do, because more data does lead to good information and to make knowledgeable thoughts, or to have knowledgeable thoughts about decisions. But the research shows something surprising. Better decisions don't always lead to better outcomes. In a landmark study by Emilio Mayano Diaz and colleagues, researchers looked at university students and compared two groups, maximizers and those who are satisficers. Maximizers are those who tried to look for the best option, the very best option, and satisficers are those who made good enough choices and then moved on. And they found that maximizers reported lower life satisfaction than satisficers, and that the reason wasn't the outcome, it was the experience of making the decision, of deciding. Maximizers often second guessed themselves after making a choice. They kept wondering, did I miss a better option? Could I have gotten more money for less? Could I have gotten more for less money? And is there a choice that was technically better? And they were less happy overall. Why? Because they had regret. The study found a strong correlation between maximizers and regret sensitivity. In other words, the more they aimed for perfection, the more they noticed what thing they missed, or what they could have gotten, or what they should have gotten. Now, in contrast, satisficers, they pick something that checks all the boxes, or checks enough boxes, and they don't look back. That mindset actually boosts contentment, not because they settle for less, but because they define success as meeting their needs, not maximizing their outcomes. Let me give you a relatable example. Say you're shopping for a winter coat. The maximizer spends hours, maybe days, going online, comparing materials, prices, reviews, what brands, what people say about brands, what are their sustainability ratings. And they finally buy one, but 3 days later, they see a different one on sale and wonder, should I have waited? Should I have gotten that one instead? Maybe. Or meanwhile, the satisficer finds a warm, well-made coat that fits, looks good, and buys it and moves on. They freed up time, energy, and headspace for something else. Now multiply that by every decision we need to make in a day or a week. The food that we have, the fitness activities that we do, the financial actions that we take, what apps we download and use, or even our relationships. They are approached very differently between maximizers and satisficers. And if you're a maximizer, you may look for the superior choice, but it's good on paper. But internally, you're burning fuel, and often you get diminished returns. Another study, this one by Mascara and Fossilo, looked at maximizers in the context of the digital world, our world of infinite options, because everything is available online. They agreed that digital tools amplify decision fatigue. Why? Because the more options you have, the more pressure you feel to find the perfect thing. The one more regret you feel afterwards. I can imagine that's probably very, very prevalent on not just social media, but on dating apps. Thankfully, I'm not in that game. But here's how Mazzullo put it. Maximizers are using modern tools, apps, smartphones, online platforms. A face of double blind or more information is less clarity. Thereabouts, thinking, how many times have you tried to pick a movie on Netflix? And you've come and you've decided you're way too tired after going through the exercise of actually picking a movie to actually watch one. That is called optimization paralysis. And it often happens when you get many people together in a group. But that optimization has a cost. It's not free. And the more time you take on doing things, the more time it takes away from you actually. The more time you take on decision making, the more time it takes away from actually doing the thing that you wanted to do. And you may have missed your options. So the question is, how do I find the best? Or is a better question, How do I find something that's good enough that we could all agree upon and let it be enough? That's the power of satisficing. It's not laziness, it's efficiency with grace. So let's take this maximizer's mindset and drop it into the world of digital transformation that we have going on now, because everything is digital. And this is where you'll see that things really start to unravel. We live in an age of what I call optimization pressure. Open your phones and you're told, oh, there's a better routine for this. Or you should build an agentic AI agent that will do this work for you. Or you should eat cleaner. Or there's a new personal productivity system that's crushing yours. You scroll for a fitness plan, and 10 minutes later you're comparing 3 different influencers, finding supplements that match your biome and 2 other apps that you'll need in order to be more effective and cut out distractions, and you're still no closer to getting the things you want done. There's there's a million tiny levers to pull, all from our smartphone. And the implicit message is, if you're not pulling all of them daily, you're not maximizing. Well, research tells us there's choice overload in this digital ecosystem, and it's totally turbocharged. Jonathan Haidt from NYU tells us that the more teenagers use social media to look for advice or look for sources of inspiration for their goals, the unhappier they are, the more depressed they are, the more self-oriented they become. And we don't want that for our teens. We don't want that for ourselves. We want it to be much more self-driven. We want to have higher satisfaction with things, not lower satisfaction with things. And the more you look, the more you optimize, because you're raising your expectations. The coat just can't be warm. It's got to be top rated, ethically sourced, microclimate adapted, and AI curated. You're not just shopping, you're performance managing your choices. And all this leads to a form of mental fatigue where we don't always talk about, but it exists. It's real. It's the cognitive cost of constantly trying to be optimal. It's like running a mental spreadsheet for everything. Where to get coffee, what podcast to listen to. And a shameless plug, please listen to The Optimization Edge and like and subscribe if you like what you're hearing. But these algorithms that are in our tools for searching and for discovery and for foraging for information, these algorithms aren't trying to optimize your satisfaction or trying to optimize your life. They're optimizing for your engagement, making sure that you continue to participate and play along. The more time you spend clicking, comparing, or scrolling, or foraging, the better these apps perform. But your attention is finite. Your decision bandwidth is finite. And if you burn it chasing perfect inputs, then there's nothing left for meaningful action. So here's the shift I want you to consider. What if optimization wasn't about finding the best answer, but protecting your attention from fragmentation? What if the win wasn't a better choice, but a clearer mind? And what if you gave yourself permission to ignore 85% of some of these options and going with the good enough, since you've already found that? Again, we're not trying to be lazy here. We're not saying don't do homework, don't do your research. You must do that. But there's a limit to it. So let's make sure we understand what the good enough really is and what is ideal for the scenario that you're dealing with. And when you start to think in that light, you'll change your perspective. And optimization will show up differently in your life. Because you'll think, what am I really optimizing for? That's the question. I ask my customers, that's the question I ask the people I'm working with, and that's what I often ask myself. What am I optimizing for? And my wife asks me that all the time as well. She's much smarter at this stuff at times. Not listening to what the apps say, this has 5 stars, or this has 1,000 reviews. It's not what society says. It's not what this productivity guru says, or this wellness tracker that you're wearing on your wrist or on your finger. It's you. This is where self-determination theory comes incredibly powerful. It's the most researched and respected framework in psychology that boils motivation down to 3 core needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy is, am I doing this because I choose to or I have to? Competence is, do I feel capable at this and am I growing at this? And relatedness is, am I connected to the outcome or to the people who are working this outcome that matter to me? And when you get these 3 things, you get goodness in self-determination. Think about that. If you're optimizing your calendar but you feel trapped, you're missing autonomy. And if you're grinding through these tasks but not learning, you're missing competence. And if you're hitting every goal but you feel lonely or disconnected from the people you work with or from your own goals or your very clear relations, then you're missing relatedness. The science is clear. When these 3 needs are met, we thrive. And when they're not, no amount of external optimization will make us feel fulfilled. So the better question isn't how do I become more efficient? How do I get it done faster? The better question is, how do I align my choices with those deeper needs? Here's a quick example. Let's say you're trying to improve your mornings. Your traditional optimizer approach might be wake up early, maybe meditate, do a cold shower, I'll journal, I'll work out, and then 7 a.m. comes and I'm ready for my day. But if none of that reflects your core needs, then it's just become another treadmill. Maybe for you, optimization is making unrushed cup of coffee, sitting on your balcony, texting a friend. Maybe it's reading a newspaper, making sure you're up on today's news. Maybe it's hitting your autonomy goal or your competence goal or your relatedness goal in one quiet moment. The point is when we stop chasing generic improvements, we start living in alignment. When we find we live in alignment, even small actions become powerful. So as we wrap up this podcast, we're now at the Clarion Corner portion of the Optimization Edge. It's your turn to try something different, to try some tasks to make it real in your life. So jot this down or rewind the video for the transcript and look at what I'm asking you to do. These activities will really have an impact. Again, these are scientific approaches to optimization we're talking about. So here's 3 prompts I want you to consider. Designing to shift the way you think, to shift from theory into practice, and to make these ideas real. I want you to give these 3 prompts, simple prompts, powerful prompts. Write them down in your notebook, put them in your notes app, and when you're at a quiet moment, think of these prompts and write down your answers. What's one area, prompt number 1, what's one area of your life where you're a maximizer? Maybe it's in your health. Maybe you're checking every calorie. Maybe you're checking every step that you make. Do I make my 10,000 steps? Maybe it's in your career. Am I publishing what I need to publish? Am I preparing all the right presentations on time? Wherever it is, ask yourself, is this energizing me or is it draining me? Just recognize the patterns is powerful. No judgment, just become awareness of it. Prompt 2. In what areas of life are you satisficing? And what'd you do this week? Maybe it's what to eat for lunch. Maybe it's how many workouts you do. Maybe it's an email that takes 5 drafts but still doesn't seem quite right. What's one decision that's good enough, that's actually great enough? Try letting it go. Not because you're giving up, because you're making room for what really matters. Or the third prompt is, what are you optimizing for right now? Freedom, growth, connection. These are all 3 core values from self-determination theory. So let your gut answer be your answer. Which one are you most missing out of? Which one are you craving? Do I crave for freedom? Do I crave for growth? Am I craving for connection? And then ask yourself, what's one choice I can make today that reflects that value of freedom, growth, or connection? One micro decision aligned with what matters can change the entire day. So this week, I want you to run a tiny experiment. Choose one of those prompts and act on it. Did it reduce friction in your life? Did it bring you more clarity? Did you feel a little bit more aligned, a little bit more accomplished? And if it did, I'd love to hear from you. Please tag me on LinkedIn, leave a comment below where you're watching this video, or even send me a note. The best part of optimization is that it doesn't have to be just theory. It happens in motion. And again, let us know what worked for you. So let's bring this home. What does it really mean to optimize? It's not about maximizing every metric. It's not about hitting every little milestone. It's about building a perfect schedule or squeezing more out of every moment. Optimization is about alignment. It's about choosing the way of life that reflects your values, conserves your energy, and allows you to put your most energy most where you wish, that serves you in your system of your life. So we've seen how economists, engineers, military strategists define optimization. We've seen how maximizers and satisficers approach decision making. And we've explored the invisible cost of over-optimization in a world that never stops offering options for optimization. So now it's your turn. Reflect on those. Use one of those 3 prompts that I gave you. Run your experiment. Write down your responses. And hopefully you'll start to see a path that is better, that doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It's not a weakness. It's what makes it yours. I want to thank you for joining me today on the Optimization Edge. If this episode sparked a shift for you, if you saw yourself in any way in the science or the stories, please subscribe, leave a review, and let's share it with another person if you think it. I want to thank you for joining me today on the Optimization Edge. If this episode sparked a shift in you, if you saw yourself in any of the science or the stories, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with one person you think would benefit from listening to us. So again, thank you. We're digging into all kinds of topics around optimization going forward. We'll find some more meaningful science that help shape our optimization choices and options, and will help you incorporate those into your life in real ways that make real impact, because you are driving this boat. Until next time, optimize wisely, live intentionally, and keep exploring the optimization edge.